Hi students, so here's a quick introduction video to lesson 5.1. As you watch this, please get your small notebook out and you're going to be taking notes along the way. So if you need to pause it at any moment to take your notes, that's fine. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is just a couple quick review things just to make sure we're all on the same page before we really start Unit 5. We're going to be graphing, and we're going to be graphing linear equations, and some of us are going to be graphing quadratic equations as well. And then after we do the learning in our small notebook, we'll practice on a worksheet and quiz and reflection, and then I'm going to give you a pre-assessment, or the substitute will give you a pre-assessment. Okay, so again, we're going to be reviewing a few concepts that are going to prepare us for graphing linear equations. That's our objective today. So get out your small notebook, and this is the title of the notebook. Go ahead and pause it if you need to write it down. Okay, so here's our first example. As you may remember from another school or from last year, this is a coordinate plane. Okay, so in a coordinate plane, right, this is always the x-axis and this is always the y-axis. Whenever you draw a coordinate plane, you need to make sure you use a ruler, and you need to make sure that you draw these little arrows on each side. So you can draw them like that or like this. Okay. So this is the proper way to draw a coordinate plane. Right, this is the x-axis, this is the positive side of the x-axis, this is the negative side, positive side of the y-axis, the negative side. And then each area has a quadrant, and so actually this one is called quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 or 3, and then quadrant 4. So this is actually just how we label the different quadrants on the coordinate plane. Okay, so make sure you have a nice coordinate plane sketched out. You might want to write out the quadrants maybe to the side so that you can reuse this one for the next. Actually, why don't you just write them like this, and then you'll just draw another coordinate plane in a moment. Okay, so we're going to talk about coordinate pairs. Now, coordinate pairs are just points. You know, it's a fancy word for points. And if you remember, points always have brackets and a comma, and the first point is always, always, always the x coordinate, and the second point is always the y coordinate. Okay, so it always goes x comma y like in alphabetical order. All right, and so we're going to talk about naming pairs. So if you have this point on the graph here, right, how we're going to figure out what is the coordinate pair for this point, what are the x and y values for this point, you're always going to start by going left to right because that's the x-axis. So we're going to start by going left to right. So we're going to go from the origin, okay, and so actually go back to this and label this as the origin. So that's a good word to know as well. Okay, so hopefully you've drawn another coordinate plane. We're going to look at coordinate pairs and line segments right now. Okay, so I'm going to start from here. I'm going to go to the right, so that's in the positive x direction, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go in the positive y direction, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're both positive, so it's 4, 4. So that's the coordinate pair that relates to that point. Let's say you have this point here. Actually, I'm going to do a different point. And you can also draw these points, please, in your notebook. Let's do here. I always, always, always start by going left or right. So I'm going to go left, 1, 2, 3. So that's -3 for my x value. Then I need to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I think a lot of you remember how to do this. And so for right now, let's just go ahead and label the points -5, 2, 6, -4, and 3, 1. Let's just do those. I just made those up. We're going to do those together. Let's call this one A. Let's call this B, and let's call this C once we label it. So let's first do A. We're going to go start at the origin. we're going to go left 5s, so it's because it's -5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and +2, so that means up 2. So this would be point A. And again, we're going to go +6, so we're going to go to the right 6 and down 4. So 4, 5, 6, and down 4. And this is B. And the more you practice this, you're going to practice this a lot today just to make sure we're all on the same page. We're quite quick at it. The more you practice it, the faster you'll get, and you'll be able to just see exactly where that point is. Okay, so for point C, I know it's going to be right 3 and up 1. So right 3, up 1. And that's point C. Okay, and then the very last thing that we're going to talk about is you can use the same coordinate axis if you want, the XY axis if you'd like, or you can draw a new one. It's up to you. So I'm just going to very, very briefly talk about lines, line segments, and intercepts. So, and what the differences are. Okay, so line segments are actually when you're going from one point to another. So let's say we're going from this point. Oops, I was trying to draw a line. From this point to this point, okay, and it actually ends. That's a line segment. So going from this coordinate to this coordinate, this is what we call a line segment. Okay? And then the difference between a line segment and a line, I'll just draw a line maybe right here. Okay, is that a line continues to go on forever and ever and ever. And so that is distinguished by drawing 2 arrows at the end. So this is called a line. Okay, so this, even though it stops here, it still is going on forever and ever and ever. Okay, so we talked about lines, line segments. A ray is actually when you have one side that's stopped and the other side is going on forever. Okay, so those are just 3 ways that we identify lines. And then the last most important concept that we're going to talk about today is intercepts. Intercepts are when a line intercepts the X or Y axis. So for example, the intercept of this line here is right here. Okay, this is the intercept of the Y axis right here. Okay, so this, I can label this as a y-intercept. And the y-intercept is very important when we graph linear equations. And you know what? Intercepts are really, really crucial points. And we use them a lot in math. From here on out, when you're graphing all types of different things, you're going to be using intercepts all the time to help you understand the graph. So it's a really great thing to know. This line segment actually has both an X and a Y intercept, as we've seen here. So here's the Y intercept, and then here is the X intercept. So go ahead and label that so you remember what an intercept is. Okay, and that's it for today. So hopefully you've taken some good notes. You know what those words mean, what you're going to do for the rest of the period. So we've just done the practice. We've just done the lesson, sorry. Now I'd like for you to do about 20 minutes or so, see how long it takes you, of the practice worksheet that the substitute will give you, or I will give you, and go ahead and check your answers. They are posted on Google Classroom. Okay, and please turn this in when you've finished. And then once you've done that, take about 5 minutes or so to try the quiz and reflection. And then the last, whatever time is left over, it might be at about 15 or 20 minutes, go ahead and do the Unit 5 pre-assessment. Okay, so just like last unit, if there's something that you're not sure about, oh, I really don't know, you can just leave it blank. And that's absolutely fine, okay? Again, I'm going to give this back to you at the very end of the unit, and hopefully you'll be able to see how much you've learned and how much you've grown over the unit. And you need to turn this one in when you're done as well. Okay, have a wonderful day.